Moving on to other stories, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Jean Mensah, has dismissed as impossible suggestions that she intends to rig elections for the New Patriotic Party because of her husband's close links with the ruling party. Mrs. Mensah's appointment was criticized by the opposition National Democratic Congress, especially because of the way her predecessor, Charlotte Osei, was removed. The party's flag bearer, former President John Mahama, on Monday also questioned the neutrality of the EC, citing what he says was a lack of transparency in the way the Jean Mensah-led commission has conducted itself since assuming office last year. The EC chairperson is, however, challenging the basis for the claims. During a courtesy call on the multimedia group Tuesday by the EC's commissioners, Ms. Mensah was emphatic it will be impossible for her to rig elections in Ghana.
This is where we really need you to go with us along the way, because we are really ready. We are here to ensure that it is the will of the people that stands. We are not here to plunge this nation into war. And anybody, I mean, that's the only way. You cannot rig the election for anybody. The EC cannot. Even at the polling stations, you have your officials there. Parties must make sure that these are credible agents that they have who can be trusted, and they should be able to be trained to, take records of the results and so on. But the EC cannot, unless the EC wants to plunge this nation glaringly into war. It cannot happen. Right from the start to the finishing line, the processes are watertight, they are transparent, and we're looking to work with our partners, the media, the political parties, to identify, along the line, if there are some loopholes. These things should be unearthed so that together with the parties and civil society, the media and so on, we can plug those holes and tighten the screws.
She said the EC is also working on a CI that will, among other things, track funding and financing of political parties.
Yes, our political parties to the best of our ability. And I started by saying that, what we've tried to do is to come up with an agenda that collectively we would work on. So, when it comes to issues of RUPA, there are key, representatives of the parties on that committee. When it comes to some of the reforms as well, you have key representatives of, the political parties on that committee. So to really engage in an open, and transparent manner, but also to engage with the public. I think the citizenry, various stakeholders in our society, engage with them, build confidence, build that trust, but also strengthen our own systems to make them very transparent. And therefore, it would be very difficult for anybody to accuse, the empire of, not being neutral. I don't see the issue of neutrality. There's absolutely nothing you can do. There's absolutely nothing you can do. Even if my father was the president and I'm put in this place, because of the systems that we have built and what we seek to do, there's absolutely nothing we can do. And it's one of the areas that, I'd like to discuss, to really take off the shrouds of secrecy and to expose Ghanaians to the system that we have, right from registration all the way to election day. Any stakeholder can monitor and police it. So you come to registration, parties have to be notified 21 days in advance. The agents out there are electoral officers. They are temporary staff who the head office has no connection to. It's district officers who appoint them. And once you do, you have to even present their photographs and their details to the political parties. And if they have issues with any officer, they raise these issues.
Chairperson, for the first time, opened up about the state of the commission when she and her colleagues took over from the previous administration.
He took office. For the first 2 weeks, it was alarming. I mean, some of the things that went on there and that we allowed to happen in terms of the public pairs. But I think it's one of the key things that we're trying to do. That's why we are strengthening the procurement department, not only with personnel, but to have systems such as a market survey, so you readily have the materials that you procure, year after year. You have a site for that. You can click on the button and you know that this water is supposed to cost you 50 pesos and not 10 cedis. You can do a quick survey of that and ensure that there's prudent and judicious use of the taxpayers' resources. Again, we're looking to strengthen and our IT processes, our biometric processes, and build the capacity of staff and basically take ownership of our IT infrastructure and not, cede it to a vendor, a foreign vendor. I think we're trying to build a system where our staff own the process, they are able to run it, they are able to maintain it.
Now, when the issue of the STL contract came up, Mrs. Mensah explained, though the company's contract is still intact for now, the EC intends to look for a new vendor.
None. The IT director tells you, Madam, I don't know. We don't have administrative rights to our passwords. We've never had until we came in. And so the system, the biometric data and everything is controlled by external vendors. Nobody has been trained. Our discussions with them are to the effect that our staff are not trainable. And so everything is run by external vendors. Let me give you, these are foreigners. Let me give you and they control our system. They have unlimited access remotely and physically to our systems. Let me give you an example of even the referendum. We have what we call the verification devices, and we had to clean and about 13,000 of them ahead of the referendum last year. And what we say we are cleaning, we just take wipes and then we wipe them, we test them to make sure that it's working, then we put them in the box. We paid $1.7 million for it. We called our IT director. We said to him, he said, no, we will give you $200,000. Take it with your team and do it. He said, Madam, we don't know how to do it. So you come in there and you go in there, our data center is just about this room. You enter the place, you are furious because you find empty boxes, the place is filthy, wires all over the place, and we are paying $4 million a year to maintain it since 2011. And you ask the IT director, what are we doing? And he says, Madam, I don't know, and nobody told me about it. And that is what the system that we have run to date. The commission has no clue. It does not control the data. Administrative rights are with the vendor. They have indicated that the commission never wanted the passwords. The staff are not trainable. What we are doing now is to build the core to bring on board new staff. We started recruiting. We realized that with the civil service, the funds that you pay, $4 million, you cannot get the quality you are looking for. So we are bringing them on board long-term as consultants, but to help us build and train. So this is the system that we find ourselves in. We felt there was no point going full scale and having registration on polling station or electoral area basis, because it would mean that we have to procure additional kits.
Now, joining me in the studio right now is head of the political desk here at Joy News, Evans Mensah, who was also in that meeting with a high-powered delegation from the Electoral Commission. Now, the EC was quite open about a number of issues, particularly the STL contract. Now, from the way she's described the status quo before, when they took over, you get the impression there was a lot of, disarray and chaos. But some way, somehow, we've been able to go through several elections successfully. Does that speak to how robust the systems we have are?
So she makes a distinction between what she meant, which is the focus before they came in on elections and administration. So remember that, and it's an excellent point actually, because the Electoral Commission is called an Electoral Commission, but it's not only built to conduct elections. To conduct elections, you must have an effective administrative system in place that then provides a basis to run a good election. So her point was that over the years, the Electoral Commission has been designed and run as an election organizing entity, pure and simple. And so all the focus has been running elections. And so that is why we saw the elections, and it was smooth, and it had 10 out, several governments over the years. But her point is, going in, she wants to focus as much on elections as on the administration of the institutional Electoral Commission.
And the political parties.
And the political parties as well. And so that's why, for example, the lack of administrative coherence and efficiency is what led to the removal of the previous Electoral Commission officers, because procurement issues were raised, issues about misuse of public funds, possible embezzlement, etc., were raised because of the lack of proper systems in place to run a place like the EC. So procurement issues, they didn't have, well, the procurement department, for example, should announce today an institution that procures more than $500 million or 500 million CDs worth of staff every year has only 2 procurement officers who work together with the same. The finance department it's the same as the procurement department, and they should be separated. And so that's the focus. That's what they meant, and those are the reforms that they're introducing.
Now, one of the things you also talked about is the fact that it's impossible for anyone to rig Ghana's elections. Can we actually take that for granted? That because we have the systems in place, it's impossible for anybody to rig it?
We should never take that for granted. However, the science backs the claim that she's making, because I'm not only looking at her administration, I'm just looking at the Electoral Commission as an institution, regardless of who is the chair of the commission. So Afarajan, let's go back to 1992. Afarajan was there as deputy, at some point became the chair, and saw the 8 years of the Rawlings. And the same person oversaw the elections that brought in the MPP. Before the 2000 elections, there were concerns from the MPP about him, but he oversaw elections that brought him to power. Before the 2008 elections, there were concerns from the NDC about Afarajan, and yet he oversaw an election that brought the NDC to power. Before the 2016 elections, MPP were in opposition. They had issues about the Electoral Commission chairperson. Yeah. John Mahama had backed the Electoral Commission fully because he had appointed the Electoral Commission chair then. And in fact, the MPP suggested and had alleged that there was a plot for Charlotte Osei to rig the elections for John Dramani Mahama. What turns out at the end of the poll was that the elections that Charlotte Osei oversaw delivered John Mahama is the party's biggest defeat yet. And to the party that thought they were going to be shortchanged, their biggest victory yet. So that tells you that regardless of who is the chairperson, the system that we have built over the years since 1992 is very, very robust and near impossible for one person sitting at the top to decide how the elections turns out.
Could there be attempts, though?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's the reason why the NPP went to court, because they believed there were attempts to rig it. And that they still believe, the MPP still believe that they lost the elections through foul means in 2012. The evidence the court has thrown out, and so we should dismiss that. However, doesn't take away the fact that people try to rig it if they can. It's a reason why both parties, when they're in government, when they are in opposition, they suspect the government and the EC, because they know what they do when they're in government. Right? They know what they do when they're in government. There's a reason why when they get into position, all of a sudden they think, oh, these guys will do what we did. And so we mistrust the EC.
Right.
Fundamentally that. So people try. But try as they might over the years, it has shown that the system is almost impossible to rig. And you are in government. People in government have lost elections before.
Almost impossible. But there's still that possibility.
Of course, there's no... The words Madam Jimenson used today is watertight, but there isn't any system like that. What we have, to her credit, is something that has shown over the years to withstand the attempts and so deliver a victory that people don't question. I mean, it's a reason why we've had all these elections and it has been challenged in court once. I'm talking about national elections, once. We've had several challenges at the constituency level. None of that has degenerated into violence, because the parties know that at the core of our election machinery is a very trusted system that is the envy of many across the country.
All right.
Across the globe.
Thank you very much, Evans Mensah. Evans Mensah is the head of our political desk here at Joy News. You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break and we're bringing you business news in a bit. Still to come, though, Free Media Vanguard Group embarks on demonstration to demand reopening of radio stations recently shut down by the National Communications Authority over regulatory breaches. And then in business, government begins discussions to offload part of its shares in selected state enterprises to private entities.
Potential, I don't want to name them because we are now preparing the grounds to see which ones are potentially good to float on the stock market so that Ghanaians can also buy into it, have direct access into the assets of the nation.
Stay tuned in, that comes up in a bit. A group calling itself the Free Media Vanguard has given government and the National Communications Authority (NCA) 1 week to restore all licenses and broadcasting permits revoked from the radio stations that were recently shut down. The group, comprising mainly staff of 2 of the affected radio stations, Radio Gold and Radio XYZ, and notable figures in the opposition NDC and PNC, marched from LWAC to the NCA office in what they called the March for Free Expression. Accusing government of using the NCA to suppress the media, it threatened to stage series of protests until the stations are allowed back on air. Nancy Fajradozi was with the demonstrators in our reports.
Chanting patriotic songs, the protesters demanded government changes what they refer to as the stifling of media freedom. They held several placards with descriptions like "Akufo-Addo, you are a threat to free speech," "Leave Manasseh alone," "Enough is enough," among others. Some of them protested with sealed lips to demonstrate the mouthpiece of the citizens. The media is being sealed by the NCA. Holding the placard "Enough of the oppression and tyranny," this protester described the entire shutdown of the radio stations in a few words.
And we, the citizens of this country, we don't want to go to retrogression. At the olden days, why we are in this country, that we can't even talk. This is why His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, his behavior, his attitude towards the media is like the return of King Agokoli.
In attendance were some members of the opposition NDC. Its former national organizer Kofi Adams accused the NCA of treating both Radio XYZ and Radio Gold unfairly.
After this work, I want to hear from the NCA that the letters that were submitted by Radio Gold and XYZ long before this attempt to go and close them is worked on and they are back on air. Nothing about claiming that they should be applying for a new license or a new certification or that kind of crap that I'm hearing. They should work on the letters that they have submitted and make sure that immediately they are on air and then doing their business.
Chairman of the People's National Convention, PNC, Bernard Mona, also cautioned if government does not seize what he calls interference with the operations of the NCA, successive governments will do same.
That our nation will not be subjected to such capricious decisions by the government and in particular by President Akufo-Addo. Given the precedent that Akufo-Addo is setting through the NCA, you should not be surprised that it will not be long when there is another president who feels more agitated by the presence of media. Multimedia will be shut down.
Former Deputy Minister of Education Samuel Okujeto-Ablakwa called on the president to walk the talk as he claims to be the champion on human rights.
Setting targeted onslaught on opposition media, media affiliated or media that the government is not comfortable with, to muzzle the press, to stifle dissenting views, and that cannot be accepted in a democracy. President Akufo-Addo must show that he is a true Democrat. All the views we are expressing today are views he expressed. He even took cases to court.
When they finally arrived at the NCA, the group sang the national anthem. Delivering the petition to the Deputy Director of NCA, Madam Olivia Kwe, convener of the group, Prince Minka, charged the NCA to within a week reopen all the radio stations that have been shut down or face their wrath.
Today, we are petitioning you. We are asking you, we the Free Media Vanguard, we are humbly petitioning your outfit for the purpose of the given practical effect to the constitutionally guaranteed rights of free expression and a free, independent and pluralistic media. Unreservedly restore the broadcasting rights of all radio stations.
We will do. Don't worry. I understand this. We receive this in the name of the authority and we will do what is right.
President Akufo-Addo has expressed optimism the implementation of the Right to Information Law will ensure transparency in government. The bill was passed by Parliament in March this year after several years of assurances by previous government. A while ago, the President assented to the bill. He is hopeful it will help with the fight against corruption.
sense of responsibility, and commitment to good governance in passing this significant piece of legislation. The purposes of the Act, as set out in its preamble, is to provide for the implementation of the constitutional right to information held by any public institution, and to foster a culture of transparency and accountability in public affairs. Properly applied, it should enhance the quality of governance in our country and provide a critical tool in the fight against corruption in public life. The Parliament has quite rightly provided that the Act should come into effect in the next financial year, i.e. January 2020, because there are financial consequences in the implementation of the law, in order to give the public treasury the opportunity to make the necessary allocations to enable the Act to be effective. I'm very happy that this law has finally been passed, and I did make the commitment that when it was brought to me, I would give my assent to it right away. It was in fact brought to me yesterday afternoon. But on second thought, I felt that I should sign it in the plain view of the Ghanaian people, for you to know that this long, winding parliamentary process has finally come to an end. Long live Ghanaian democracy. May God bless our nation and make her great.
Now, the usual flooding and insanitary conditions around the Odo Drains and the Korle Lagoon would give way to a multi-purpose recreational center complemented with hotels and cruise boats when ongoing works there are completed in 2 years. Dredge Master is currently undertaking the silting and dredging of the Odo Channel and the restoration of the Korle Lagoon to avert the perennial flooding in Accra under the Accra Sanitary Sewer Storm Drainage Alleviation Project. Says work is progressing steadily. The scope starts from the Udo-Onyesia confluence at Capri's in Accra through Aveno, Kwame Nkrumah Interchange, Agbogloshi, South Kaneshi Drain, as well as the upper and the lower lagoon. President Akufo-Addo spent some time on Tuesday to inspect progress of work. Site engineer Wise Amatofa is optimistic the area will be giving a facelift when works are done.
This dredging, cleaning up is going to take about 6 months to complete this one. Then the Korle Lagoon itself will take a longer time because that's where we have more composition of material, which needs to take a longer time, maybe about a year or two to finish. We're going to have recreational facilities. That is the sea outfall. So along we have recreational facilities, other infrastructure, we can have some hotels will come at the end, and this makes the whole place. Then we're dredging all the way through Cycle to Korle Lagoon, where we call the Clep Interceptor. From there, we end up at the estuary into the sea. Before the commencement of the work, this is how the situation was. The channels were heavily silted. Along the channel, you can see very heavy siltation. So this is a beginning. Then during the process of the dredging, we had these situations. Gradually, we came up to the end. Then finally, this is the stage that we have reached. And then after that, there was a continuation to carry out the silting, because as we progress, more.
From the Kwame Nkrumah Circle, President Akufo-Addo moved to Ablekuma North and inspected ongoing construction of a storm drain to deal with the perennial flooding around Kaneshi and Accra Academy. Site engineer George Esiedu says works will be completed next month.
And this is what we see. We covered all these sessions because we have to backfill. And at the end of the project, you realize that all of this will be available for the existing drain is about 2 meter box cover, 2 of them, and they are lying at the center of the road. But the connection between this drain and the existing one was very small, about 0.6 meters. So anytime it rains, water gets over this section, and the whole of Obichebi, the whole of this area, the market gets flooded for the past about 12 years now, and that has been a major problem. With the intervention this project through the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources be put in resources, because this is being seen as an environmental sanitation challenge. And so with collaboration with all relevant stakeholders, we decided to remove the bottlenecks and also channelize the drain about 630 meters stretch upstream to collect all the water and then channel it onto the existing drain that is lying across the main road. And this has successfully been done, and the drain is what you see there. The channel is about 2 meters by 1.6, 2 of it. So eventually it's about 4 meters width, 1.8 meters deep. And that is the channel size. It is connecting an existing drain which has the same size.
A 9-year-old girl has gone missing at Tafo in Kumasi following Monday night's heavy downpour. Kudisia Awudu left home on the blind side of her parents after helping them with household chores. Residents say a few meters from the house where she played in the rain with a friend, she was swept by running water into a drain. Attempts by some volunteers to rescue the girl yielded no positive result. Nane Aljima has more in the following report.
Some women in the community gather around the missing child's inconsolable mother, Salamatu Awudu. Just moments before her daughter went missing, they had been performing some house chores together. She says she insisted I allow her wash the utensils in the rain. I told her to bring it on the veranda and I stood beside her to supervise. After that, she joined her sisters, scrubbed the floor. I went inside afterwards. I didn't see her leave the house. No one realized it until her friends came crying. Residents say Kudiye's friends informed them about the incident, but they tried unsuccessfully to trace her. She says, it was raining heavily. I saw a child stand near the drain. I asked her to leave, but she told me her friend has fallen into it. They told me she fell in the drain up there, and I expected to see her here. The pressure at which the water flowed was intense. We couldn't see any signs of her here, and no one could go into the drain. A resident, Jamel Muhammad, indicates the area often floods whenever it rains. Whenever it rains, the whole place is swamped. Even adults are supposed to be careful, else they will be carried away. Meanwhile, personnel of Otafo Municipality Directorate of National Disaster Management Organization are searching for the girl. Municipal Chief Executive Fred Obin Owusu says more storm drains are being constructed to address the recurrent floods.
We all realize that this year is going to occur. There is going to be a heavy rainfall and other thing. As an assembly, we did the sorting, making sure that we pave way for those people in and around that. So when it falls, they are not going to find themselves wanting and also problem befall them. So we've done that one, and that one is also paving way for all the flood and other the water to just drain easily without anything. But you can also attest to the fact that those people living around, most of the times when it is hot raining, they normally pour some of the refuse and other things. And when it chokes elsewhere, that is where you may even realize that the rain or the water cannot even not run very fast. And that one may even not pop up and also bring problems to people around that particular area. But as we all know, we have done our part and we are continuing to do all these things till we curb the problems that we have.
Authorities at the Maternal and Child Health Hospital in Kumasi say persistent attack by criminals is negatively affecting the operations of the facility. Administrator Daniel Ohini Intikakare says medical staff and visitors to the facility are falling victim to activities of intruders, especially at night. He says though they've tried to reach the police to offer them protection, not much has happened. Otim Interior has more in the following report.
The Maternal and Child Health Hospital, was established as a public facility in 1910 to cater for the needs of pregnant mothers and children. It is a referral center for malnourished children in the northern sector of Ghana. The facility is faced with lack of equipment and sanitation issues. Its proximity to the Kejetia Lorry Terminal and Central Business District means intruders use the premises as a resting place. Both patients and medical staff are targeted in the attacks perpetrated by people who hang around the premises. Managers say the facility, which sees at least 200 patients a week, has often become a no-go area for patients and medical staff, especially in the night. Daniel Ohini Intikakari is the administrator.
We are closer to the KGTR car park. So most of the time, people trooping, they want to come and have their night here. They sleep, they leave their leftovers here, and they leave. They go in the morning. We also give our clients education that whenever they come, they should be watching. Because not everybody that enters is a client or is a patient. Some they will come and not sit with them, and at the end of the day, they take their bag or maybe their money or their phones from their bags and they run away. Yes, it do happen. In fact, there have been series of reports even given to the police, but still they can't even. I don't know whether they will arrest them and they later on leave them. Yes, that's the problem that we have been encountering. Even in the night, it's dangerous to come here.
Managers say though the attention of the police has been drawn to the issue, little has been done. Mr. Kakari wants immediate attention to save the facility from collapse.
The thieves, they are all around here. They are around. They take their bags, their phones, their money. So if you are coming here in the night, you have to be very, very careful. We have been to the Central Police Station to lodge official decision that maybe in the night, if they can be coming here to assist us. But they will come a week or two, then they stop. All what I can say is that if the police can assist us, maybe in patrolling here, especially in the night, I think all this thing will be right. I think we are going to have our own peace.